Moving on to the next report, trustees, regarding Giant Steps. This report is found on pages 15 to 22 of your board standing committee agenda package. It has been prepared by staff in response to the trustees' request following the delegation that took place on September 22nd, 2020 at our board meeting. It is my pleasure to invite our Director of Education, Louise Sarisco, to speak to this item. Louise?
Thank you, Chair Cordova, and good evening, trustees, senior team, staff, and members of the public who have joined us this evening. We have shared a report that provides information on Giant Steps. The board provided notice to the leadership of Giant Steps that we are ending our relationship effective June 30th, 2021. The board began its relationship with Giant Steps in 1995 when the incidence of autism was very low and the supports and services provided in York Region and the board were in their infancy. Since that time, our board has developed extensive supports for students with autism. Today, we support approximately 3,000 students with autism. Some of those students have very high needs and require safety planning and the allocation of 2 or more staff to support their programming. We plan for students by understanding their strengths, their needs, and their interests. Parents are important partners in our program planning and delivery. Educators in our schools maintain close relationships and contact with our parents to share progress and work collaboratively on the most immediate goals for their children. We hold meetings with parents and specialized staff, such as psychologists, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, physiotherapists, to set goals and strategize for the success of each student. Further, our board employs board-certified behavior analysts who have earned specialized accreditation in supporting students with autism. They conduct comprehensive assessments and collaborate with school staff on the development of programs and interventions. They also regularly monitor the implementation of the interventions and suggest changes as the student progresses. They provide guidance on goal creation and professional learning for the school teams who implement the program planning. The supports, services, and programs that we provide students with autism are robust and meet the needs of our students. The provision of therapy will change for our families as they transition from Giant Steps. Giant Steps hires therapists who provide therapy for students within the center. YRDSB employs therapists. We have occupational therapists, physiotherapists, and speech and language therapists. The therapists within YRDSB are part of the planning team for each student. YRDSB therapists also conduct assessments and make referrals for therapy to the Children's Treatment Network. CTN accept referrals and, based on the assessed needs of the student, create goals and assign therapists to work with students in school. Therapy sessions are goal specific. Reports are written and provided to educators so that strategies may be incorporated into day-to-day teaching. In addition to therapy that occurs in school, in Ontario, children who are under 18 and have a diagnosis with autism are eligible to be registered in the Ontario Autism Program. The OAP falls under the responsibility of the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services. Families apply to the OAP and the needs of their children are assessed. A behavior plan is developed and goals for children are set with a family. Families receive a childhood budget that is needs-based from the OAP, and families may access therapists within the region. Some examples of provider of therapy within York Region include Carey's Place, Kinark, and Mackenzie Health. There is a wait list for the OAP, and while on the wait list, families may apply for interim one-time funding. The one-time funding does not impede a family's ability to access the OAP longer-term needs-based funding. Therapy is provided at centers, at home, or in social settings. Therapy connected to the OAP does not occur in schools. Therapists who support the OAP can provide professional development for school-based educators to learn about the students' therapy goals and incorporate the strategies within the classroom setting through YRDSB therapists. Students access therapists in 3 ways. YRDSB therapists can conduct assessments and support staff in learning the skills and strategies to support therapy goals within an educational program. YRDSB therapists make referrals to the Children's Treatment Network that assigns CTN therapists to support students in school. And lastly, families may be registered with the Ontario Autism Program that may be used to fund therapists to support children outside of school. Every year, we review the program supports and services we provide to students with special education needs. We are making a change this year by no longer providing a placement location at Giant Steps. Instead, we are offering students placed in Giant Steps a placement within one of our YRDSB community classrooms, where students will be within a classroom of 6 students and receive excellent programming. I recognize that this change may be worrying for parents, and I want to reassure families that their children will meet with success. We look forward to meeting with families to discuss the needs of their children to begin transition planning. I would like to invite Coordinating Superintendent Kate Diacu to highlight some of the ways that we provide support to students with autism in our classrooms. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you very much, Director Strisco. I'm waiting for my camera to turn on. Thank you. Hi. It is my pleasure, Director Strisco, and through you, Chair Cordova, to speak this evening in response to trustee questions after the delegation from Giant Steps last month. The trustees expressed considerable interest in further understanding the ways in which we in York Region District School Board support students with an identification, a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. I know you have an extensive report that you have received, and I am very aware that you have read the report, but it is my hope this evening to try and bring some life to that report and extend some of the contents with some examples and specific details that are referenced in the report. Slide. Thank you. So of course, everything we do in student services within the board is in alignment with our YRDSB mission and vision to advance student achievement and well-being through public education, which motivates learners, fosters inclusion, inspires innovation, and builds community. It is our vision to be a leader in public education by empowering all students to become engaged and caring citizens of the world. And we really do mean every single student. We have this goal and vision for all of our learners. Slide. And slide again, please. So we have many supports that are specific to students with an identification of an autism spectrum disorder. We have autism services, so we have a coordinator of autism services. We have autism consultants. We actually have a complex needs team that involves an itinerant teacher. We have complex needs, applied behavioral analysis facilitators, and complex needs psychologists. Our teams provide direct in-class support to staff, and they are in schools all day, every day. They're in classrooms. They collaborate very closely with school staff, and they collaborate considerably with families. This is a collective effort. We are all working as a wraparound team to support students with ASD. This team provides an enormous amount of professional learning across the system. They consult and liaise with school principals, with teachers, with other members of the interdisciplinary team, which I will explain in a little bit. And they work hand in hand with parents, and they do an enormous amount of work hand in hand with several of our community agencies that I will also reference shortly. They participate in in-school team meetings where, again, it's a team of people getting together to share knowledge and expertise and specific questions and concerns about student learning and student needs, and then collaborate on the best plan forward with the child at the center of that plan, making sure that everybody is on a united front and working towards a common goal to achieve success. They facilitate and support transitions for students with ASD. They support transitions into school right as students are coming into our system into junior kindergarten. Many students enter our system already having a diagnosis of an autism spectrum disorder, and this team is integral in helping plan that transition into school. They support transitions in between class placements, whether a student is moving from a regular class placement into a community class placement, or changing schools, significant support to plan and support transitions from elementary to secondary. And of course, we always have a goal on post-secondary and working towards all of our students reaching their potential as they leave us and move into their pathway of choice after high school. This team helps families facilitate and connect with community agencies, whether it's Mackenzie Health, Center for Behavioral Health Sciences, Children's Treatment Network, Carey's Place, York Support Services Network, et cetera, et cetera. Our board staff plays a significant role in facilitating families' ability to connect with these services, and we work in great partnership with a lot of these community agencies. I did mention our interdisciplinary team, and this is a great support to all of our students with special education needs, and it's no different for our students with an autism spectrum disorder. On our interdisciplinary teams, we have members of Autism Services. We have, as mentioned, in our board, their title is Applied Behavioral Analysis Facilitators, but they are board certified behavior analysts. We have speech language pathologists, physio and occupational therapists, psychologists, social workers, and we have specialists of teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing and blind low vision. Many of our students have more than one identification, and it is not that uncommon for a student to have autism and another diagnosis or identification. And so we have a complex wraparound team to support, whether it's the speech language pathologist working on communication needs, a physio occupational therapist working on some sensory needs, and a student may also have hearing needs or vision needs or medical needs that need to be addressed, all in the context, of course, of meeting their educational goals as outlined in their IEPs. So all of these people on the interdisciplinary team attend school meetings with school-based staff. So they will work with the teacher, educational assistant, and administrators in a school, and they will conduct assessments. So they may, in direct relation to their particular discipline, so a psychologist or a speech language pathologist will go in and work directly with a student to conduct a thorough professional assessment. And then they share the results of that assessment and their recommendations, and they help design an intervention and collaborate on program goals. And when the whole wraparound group, in consultation with the families, decided on the best next step, the most important goal to work on for that student at that time, that gets clearly documented in the student's individual education plan. And then the regulated health professionals are a part of making those recommendations for the intervention for the program that will then be taken up by the school-based staff, the teacher, and the EA in order to meet their educational goals. And that is a critical relationship that our interdisciplinary team has with our school-based staff. Of course, there are constant revisits to that plan and check-ins and tweaks as students progress. Of course, adjustments need to be made. We have a wide range of placement options to support students with an autism spectrum disorder. We have many students with ASD in a regular class placement. They have an individual education plan that may be implemented by the regular classroom teacher. And then we have increasing levels of support that have a student spending, with each increasing level of support, they're spending more and more time with direct support from a special education teacher, and moving towards a community class placement, which is a small class placement for students with ASD. There is a cap of 6 students on the class. There would be a teacher and anywhere between 2 and 4, 5, 6 educational assistants. That allocation of educational assistants is absolutely individually based and decided on the need of the students. So where one class may function very well with 1 teacher and 2 educational assistants, another class may have a teacher and 4 or 5 educational assistants. But we make all of those decisions based on individual student need. So we also run a number of programs. There's the After School Skill Development Program, which is a 10-week after-school development program for students in primary grades. It's direct instruction, focusing on social skills through play, sharing, taking turns, conversation skills. To date, over the past 5 years, we have supported over 800 students in this program, and they have met with great success, and we have received tremendous feedback about that program. We also run the Peers program, which is an evidence-based social skills program for youth with ASD that we'll be running after school for our intermediate students to help support successful transitions to secondary school. Our staff receive a significant amount of training in relation to ASD. So if you are working in a class, for a community class for students with ASD, there's an enormous amount of professional learning provided to you through a wide variety of means. And we focus a lot on our, taking the DAP into consideration, mattering and belonging. Each and every one of our students with ASD needs to feel like they matter and belong. And we have specific concrete strategies in order to ensure that that we are reaching that goal, reducing stigma and focusing on equity and inclusivity. We have a wide variety of training and professional learning regarding applied behavioral analysis to ensure that we are in alignment with Policy and Program Memorandum 140, which is a significantly important document to us in our requirements to support students with ASD within our school system. And we take that PPM very seriously and provide an enormous amount of training on that PPM and on the matters contained within it. We have specific budget allocated to ASD training, significant funds allocated to specifically support learning for educators throughout the system to engage in a variety of professional learning opportunities. And that level of professional learning increases the closer you get to working directly with students with ASD. So if you are a community class teacher working with students with ASD, you will have significant opportunities to engage in professional learning. Slide, please. Thank you. This is just we've got some great sports teams and clubs. This is a picture from a robotics club, I believe, and arts clubs and music and track and field events. All our students are included in all aspects of the school community. So when we think of track and field days and school concerts and special lunch programs, pizza days, they are critically important members of the school community, and their involvement in school life is an enrichment to everyone in our schools. Slide, please. Some of the other, I spoke about the peer awareness and acceptance. We offer professional learning sessions to teachers on how to deliver peer acceptance sessions to students. And we have students, sport teams, intramural sports, clubs, tech clubs, art clubs. There are best buddies programs and social clubs, building connections and meaningful relationships and confidence through shared interests and activities. We have student ambassadors, where student teams work throughout the school year to bring ASD acceptance and understandings to their classmates through activities, announcements, and social engagements. This year, our system is engaging in ASD compliance training, with the first 2 modules being exclusive to ASD acceptance and inclusion strategies and practices. We maximize students' opportunities to participate in their own education and to utilize their strengths and preferences to engage in a variety of leadership activities within the school setting. We start young, giving all of our students active roles within the school that can turn into jobs within the school, that can turn into work placements outside of the school, and we are building those skills from a very early age. Slide, please. So Student Services is an awesome department, but we cannot do this alone. We do all of this in an interdepartmental fashion. There is enormous collaboration between various departments in our system to support the variety of various identities of the child. Collaboration with the departments that you can see listed there are Inclusive School and Community Services, Continuing Ed, Leadership Development, Learning Design and Development, and our curriculum partners are critical in the work we do together, because maximizing the academic achievement and maximizing the outcomes for students with ASD is a collective priority. And I have already spoken to you about the members of the interdisciplinary team. Some of them are listed there on that slide. Just going to ask you to skip to the next slide, please. Thank you. So caregivers and educators as partners in education for students with ASD. The school support program assists students and families in meeting common goals that are shared between home and school. A consultant supports the goal development and supports achieving that goal in both settings to ensure consistency for success. We know that if similar strategies are used at home and at school, and we are working towards the same goal, we will have a greater level of success in helping that student achieve that goal. We're proud members of the ASD Partnership. It's a joint partnership of parents, community members, and not-for-profit agencies in York Region who work together to provide cohesive, collaborative system of support of people in York Region with ASD and their families. So being a part of ASD Partnership has been a considerable gift for us and very important in helping us develop our work in York Region. I mentioned in-school teams earlier, and they're critical to us. We regularly have, every school regularly has in-school team meetings that are proactive problem-solving mechanisms to support success and programming for the academic, social, emotional, and physical strengths and needs of the student. The school team works together to support the student, the parent, and each other through planning, documenting, and implementing supports and strategies with regular monitoring of progress. This, of course, in students with special education needs, this is done through the IEP development, implementation, and revisions of the IEP as students progress. Caregivers, students, and school staff work closely to develop the goals within the student's IEP and to monitor those goals collaboratively throughout the school year. I mentioned transition meetings, but transition meetings include caregivers, students, educators, community partners, and could focus on micro or macro transitions that will support a student in achieving successful transition through careful planning and collaboration. It's important to note that our staff who work with students who have ASD are very aware that transitioning from a preferred activity like being on the computer to a non-preferred activity, perhaps like reading. Of course, it's all dependent on the student. That transition may be something that requires careful and thoughtful planning in order for it to be successful. So a transition from one activity to another could be as big a deal for a student as another student who we're working on planning from a transition from grade 8 to grade 9. So we take all of those transitions very seriously and plan for them carefully. And ongoing communication, trusting relationships is critical to support the collaboration that we need to do in order to achieve these student goals. I mentioned community partnerships and talked about our proud position with the Asd Partnership. And I would also like to talk about our Ontario Autism Program Service Navigation. This is a service that supports families in navigating and utilizing the Ontario Autism Program for their child. And York Region District School Board consults and collaborates with the York Region OAP Service Navigator to ensure our students are receiving the best supports possible, both within the school system and within the community. We also work very closely and have connections for students, CFS. It supports the transitions for students who are leaving funded IBI programs and returning to the school environment. And the goal of the program is to provide consistent programming and transition supports to the student and the receiving school. So we work very closely with the Connections for Students consultant and in order to make sure that transition is as smooth as possible. Next slide. For students to achieve personal, school, and family-based goals, Student Services, along with various YRDSB departments, work hand in hand with caregivers and community partners to provide a supported, and inclusive environment focusing on opportunities for ASD students to achieve. Slide. So we have a long list of professional learning that we engage in. I will tell you that we have 12, as mentioned, ABAFs, Applied Behavioral Analysis Facilitators. They have master's degrees and they are board certified behavior analysts. And they work incredibly closely with our teams to support students who are having behavioral, social, and communication challenges. They are an integral part of our interdisciplinary team, and they provide professional learning that is invaluable to our staff. We have CERTs and community class networks, so we have a professional learning community of teachers that work together to share ideas, program planning, resources. They're supported by student services staff. So these learning networks are supported by consultants, by SLPs and PTOTs, and all of the regulated health professionals we have already spoken about this evening. And it's a responsive way to give educators the opportunity to learn together, to continually renew, refresh, and enhance their professional practice, specifically as it relates to supporting students on the autism spectrum. We have Great Beginnings every year where we support teachers who are new to teaching an ASD classroom. And we demonstrate instructional models and classroom design, program development, and help ensure they understand the use and structure of the principles of ABA within the classroom. Of course, if any new teacher is teaching an ASD class, we are also supporting them through the new teacher induction program in partnership with our curriculum and instructional services partners who do a phenomenal job supporting our new special education teachers. Next slide, please. So this is a list of some of the contents of our professional learning that we provide on ASD. Every year, approximately, there are 25 to 30 sessions of ASD-specific training developed to support our teachers, educational assistants, administrators, and other board staff. This training is developed to meet the varying needs of both students and educators. The training occurs in a variety of forms, from in-person full-day training, after school learning opportunities, and virtual training that staff can access on their own time so that accessibility to training is available to everyone. The opportunities above are just some of the training that we offer within YRDSB, and they include opportunities to engage in learning about social communication, applied behavioral analysis, structured teaching, inclusivity, and evidence-based innovative practices in working with students with ASD. Slide, please. So I realize that may have felt long on your end, but I can assure you that I would be able to go on at great length about the services and professional support staff and professional learning we have in the area of ASD. And I hope that this in part answers the trustees' questions from last month about how we in York Region District School Board support students with ASD, and how we would support students who would be transitioning to our typical classroom settings from the Giant Steps program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Madam Director and staff, for preparing this fulsome report. As outlined in the information that was provided, it looks like quite a bit of the trustees' questions were added to the fulsome report in regards to our questions, and also information in regards to your decision to decouple the board's relationship with Giant Steps. At this time, I welcome questions from trustees. If you could add your name to the speakers list if you have any questions or comments. I am seeing, I believe the first one is Ron. Lynn, Trustee Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank staff for preparing the very detailed report. I have a couple of questions. On page 19 of 67, which is page 5 of 8, I just want to ask, looking at the timeline, I noticed that March 6th, we sent out a letter, and I also received information report from staff. I just want to see what is the status right now that we are with the involved parents from Giant Steps, because I see transition plan will include review of Ontario's student record, and then the second nugget, I just want to start with that question. That's number one. My next question I will ask together is, I receive a lot of outreach from parents in my writing or not in my writing regarding the decoupling. I just want to ask either the Kate or Director Zurisco, is there any chance that we can delay the decoupling? So this is, I will start with this first two questions. Thank you, through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I will direct that first to Louise Zurisco.
Thank you, and through you, Trustee Cordova, to Trustee Lynn. I'm going to ask Coordinating Superintendent to talk about the first question in regards to the status of reaching out to parents, and then I'll respond to your second question. Coordinating Superintendent Steichu.
Thank you, Director Zurisco, through you, Chair Cordova. Trustee Lynn, we have our student services coordinators followed up. Can everybody hear me twice? Okay. Sorry about that. There's quite an echo here. Director Zurisco sent a letter to families on March 6th, and immediately after that, student services coordinators in each area who would have the responsibility of overseeing the transition of the students from Giant Steps into our regular community schools made outreach phone calls and emails to each family, and tried to set up meetings and appointments. Of course, March break came, and then came COVID. And so we, student services coordinators reached out again in a letter to families on October 6th to try to engage families in the transition process, to start to set up meetings, to get to know as much about the students as they can, and to help facilitate all of the staff members that we've been speaking about and get them mobilized to help plan for the successful transition of the students. And then they have been following up those letters that went home on October 6th with subsequent phone calls and emails as we speak. And we are having intermittent contact with some families and beginning that process slowly.
Thank you, Kate. In regards to your second question, Trustee Lynn, relationships matter tremendously to us, and that is part of the reason why we provided a very long notice period for Giant Steps to be decoupling our relationship with us. And at the heart of that, we wanted to be sure that we were providing ample opportunity to get to know the strengths and needs and interests of each of the students. And we feel that the amount of time that has been provided between now and the new school year is ample opportunity for us to be making sure that we have made transition plans that are very fulsome and strong for each of the students. And so we are feeling very confident in the timeline provided, and an extension will not be pursued. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Lynn, okay, you're good. Trustee Sherman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A number of parents had reached out sharing a common thread expressing that before they had switched to Giant Steps, they had found some challenges, and that was the impetus for them switching to Giant Steps, at which time they had found a program that worked for their child. I'm wondering if we could address specifically to this, that how, as we're transitioning them back, we can ensure they wouldn't have a similar experience, and as to the efficacy of our programs, and that way it will address the students' needs.
Thank you, Trustee Sherman. Director Sarisco.
Thank you, through you, Trustee Cordova, and Kate, please feel free to jump in. But Trustee Sherman, each of our students is unique, and there are times where we have where we meet with success, and there are times that provide challenges in programming for students, and there are new goals that require to be set. What I can say unequivocally is that our dedication to the success of every student is strong, and their success and their interests are at the heart of everything that we do and that we plan. And that is part of the reason why we have the detailed number of staff with unique specialization that you heard Coordinating Superintendent Diacu talking about. And we would bring in those staff if there is a student who is experiencing a challenge, so that we can continue to plan and problem solve and persist to make sure that each student is meeting with success. So it's always very heartbreaking when a student meets with a challenge, but that is really when we, as a team of special education staff, rally around the programming required for that student. Kate, did I miss anything?
No, thank you, Director Sarisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Trustee Sherman, you're good. Okay, Trustee Nathan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I would like to ask that how is the Giant Step program different from any of the other specialty schools we have, for example, Bill Crothers or the IB programs?
Through you, Chair Cordova, thank you for asking that question. Trustee Nathan, let me try and explain. So we absolutely have programs within YRDSB, IB, AP, the arts programs. The difference is that those programs are provided by staff members who are YRDSB employees, and their YRDSB educational programs. IB, as an example, asks for a nominal fee charged for accreditation and for exams that for students who are engaged in that program. Those fees are permissible under the Education Act within the fees for learning materials for optional program enhancements. The other significant difference is that Giant Steps is a third party entity. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Trustee Mahmood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question, just a kind of clarification. We mentioned about 20 students today in Giant Steps, which need to be brought back into schools post this partnership or engagement finishes or ends June 30th, 2021. How many of these parents have already we have contacted them, or how many of them have already enrolled their kids? And I will have a follow-up question after that.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to direct that question to Coordinating Superintendent Daiku if we're able to answer it.
Thank you, Director Sirsko, through you, Madam Chair. Apologies, Trustee Mahmood. I want to make sure I understand your question properly, because I am hearing an echo. How many of the 21 students at Giant Steps have already enrolled with us?
Yes, I mean enrolled in the sense that they have seen the plan where they're going to be, and then they are ready to come back.
So we do not have that, to my knowledge, at this time. We have not finalized any placements for the 21 students. We are eagerly awaiting the opportunity to connect with each family individually. So the student services coordinator for each area, who has reached out to those families, is very much looking forward to engaging in those conversations about what the placement options would be for each student, and working with the family to understand how they would like to best support that transition into those programs. But we have not confirmed any placements at this time.
Thank you. So a follow-up question on that. The reason I was asking this is that we wanted to make sure that we are aware that where these kids, which schools they need to be, so that we have adequate resources available. They may be going to a school where we do not have today an arrangement to accommodate such students. So my worry was around that we don't want their experience back into our school to be which they were not expecting, at least, or not in line with whatever. So I was just coming from that angle.
Through you, Chair Cordova, to Trustee Mahmood. Trustee Mahmood, that is exactly why the relationship with parents is so foundationally important, so that we are able to talk very deeply about each student's strengths, interests, needs, so that we are able to look at the gamut of our options within YRDSB, and to be making sure that we are providing the best placement option, as well as the problem solving and allocation of staffing and so on that would be required for every student. So that's why we wanted to have a very long lead time in order to do that review and planning with alongside families and their supports.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mahmood. Trustee Liang.
Through you, Madam Chair. So these few days, some constituent from my ward starting to calling me regarding their concern. Most of the concern talk about the services provided by their board is different than their Giant Step. So according to the presentation, it sounds like we have a proper arrangement about how to supporting the student to do the transition. So when we can be able pass the information to the parents. Since from the conversation the parents talk to me, sounds like there's a disconnect between, the conversation. They may be feeling like the services provided to them from the board is a different than their joint step.
Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And through you, Trustee Cordova to Trustee Liang. Thank you for that really important question, Trustee Liang. I'm hoping that this evening is an opportunity for parents who have their children enrolled at Giant Steps for them to be hearing about the question that you asked after the delegation, and that is, how do we support our students with autism in our schools? So hoping that this is a part of the development of a relationship, and for parents who are wondering what will happen in September, and they're reaching out to you, please do encourage them to connect with their student services coordinator, who will be very much pleased to go through all of the information that we just shared in much more detail, and to get to know their child, who we know is at the center of their heart, and who is treasured by them. So we are really hoping that we are able to continue the conversation in the days, the weeks, and the months ahead.
Yeah, according to the conversation, I just heard, it also besides, I suggest the constituent to contact the student services by themselves. You see, the board also will contact the student one by one to, contact them and try to provide their suitable services to them.
That's correct, Trustee Liang. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Luis, and thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Is there any other trustees before I ask my question that would like to go ahead and ask a question? Did I cover everyone? Oh, Trustee Nathan, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a restriction on how many maximum number of students can be in an autism class? Like a government requirement?
Thank you. I'll direct that question to Coordinating Superintendent IQ.
Thank you, Director Srisco. Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, the Education Act, Trustee Nathan, stipulates that for a special education class that is designed to support students with ASD, the class maximum is 6.
And just a follow-up question quickly, do all of our schools have an ASD classroom at this moment?
Thank you. I'm just going to jump in. Thank you, Madam Chair. No, not all of our schools have classes for students that have community class. All of our schools support students with a diagnosis of ASD. I can't think of a school that doesn't have a student, and in most cases, many students with ASD enrolled. But when you are talking about a community class specific for students with ASD, we have dozens upon dozens upon dozens of classes, but not every single school has a class for students with ASD.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nathan. My question is, the report has indicated quite a bit on what we can provide for students going forward through the YRDSB, and that we will continue to support the students of this program into the YRDSB education system. My question is in regards to thoughts given or prior to decoupling the relationship and the partnership with Giant Steps. I'm wondering, because I didn't see it or someone could direct me in regards to the report, where the details of steps and research indicated prior to us making the decision to decouple the relationship. So basically, I'm looking at what is the supporting evidence to thoughts given around this before we did so. I'll direct that to Luis. please.
Thank you very much, and through you, Trustee Cordova. I believe that the beginning part of the report really is the answer that you are seeking, in that when the relationship with Giant Steps and YRDSB was formed, it was in 1995, a very long time ago, when the incidence of autism was very low, and very likely at that time in York Region. There were, for the district school board, there were limited or much less supports in place in regards to program supports and services for students with autism. Since that time, obviously, our special education planning has evolved. We have increased the number of staff and their specialized training to be sure that we are supporting the needs of our students with autism to a very, very high degree. So we have 3,000 students in our schools meeting with success every single day. And the level of need of those 3,000 students has a very, very wide range, from students who have a low level of need and who are in a placement option of fully integrated within their classes. At a very other far extreme, we have students with great high level of need, some who are nonverbal, some who have multiple diagnoses, who require specialized staff that are not just one-on-one, but we have some students who require more than 2 adults for them to be successful through their day. So I know, as a director and in conversation with the senior planning team within student services, that the level of complexity of programs and supports that we provide our students, and the success that our students are meeting every single day, that the strength of our supports is excellent. And I have no doubt that the students who are enrolled in Giant Steps will meet with success. And that fact, and the looking at the ability of our program supports and services really provides reassurance to us, and should to you as the Board of Trustees, that our students in Giant Steps will meet with great success in our schools. Thank you.
Okay, so just to follow through with that, so there was some research in regards to what we currently are able to provide some of the students with different needs, and the same with the students that are attending this program. And through that research, we have indicated that we would be able to meet the needs of the students under the education spectrum.
Thank you. If I may, through you, Chair Cordova, certainly our special education plan is reviewed continuously. It is a live reflection of how we can better be providing the supports and services that we provide for our students. And again, I'm very confident that the placement options and the supports for students in Giant Steps will be strong and will meet their needs.
Perfect. And last question in regards to feedback. We are welcoming feedback not only from organizations like Giant Steps, who has been providing this type of service to other students, but also other organizations within our region to help us grow in the York Region District School Board.
Thank you, and through you, Trustee Cordova, certainly part of the special education plan for any district school board, and certainly for YRDSB, is to monthly talk about the program supports and services that we provide our students, and that is held at our Special Education and Advisory Committee table monthly, where we review changes to our special education plan, and conversation ensues about those changes, and there is active dialogue and feedback, exactly as you are talking about, to be discussing the programs and how we support our students within YRDSB. So thank you for raising that, and certainly we know that parents have been outreaching to us with sadness, with fear about the decoupling. And what we're hoping to do tonight really is to reassure families who are enrolled in Giant Steps to say that we care very deeply about their children, and to please know that the planning for their success will be at the heart of all of our conversations. And we hope to engage in conversations about their children so that we are planning thoughtfully for September and making sure that we're setting them up for the very, very best success so that they meet with achieving the goals that are set with a family and with their specialists. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sarisco. And thank you, trustees, for engaging in a fulsome conversation and question period. There is no motion required, and so this information is as a report.